Well, 0 for 3, 0 for 2023. Three strikes, you're out, however you want to say it. Another day and another vote fails to elect a new speaker. This time, Congressman Jim Jordan goes down again. Even more Republicans decide not to vote for him, 25 today. And the Democrats, well, they're loving it. And Democrat Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries did not mince words. He had this to say.
We recognize that Jim Jordan is a clear and present danger to the American people, and we are going to be here for as long as it takes to end this national nightmare.
Have you heard from any moderate Republicans who would be willing to partner with you on a speaker candidate?
It's a question you should ask them.
Leader Jeffries, at this point, would you ever vote for Patrick McHenry on the floor?
I've said repeatedly that there are many Republicans on the other side of the aisle who we believe are good Americans, good patriots, good men and women. Patrick McHenry is one of them. There are others.
All right. Jordan aware he would probably fail before the vote, and he's taking his campaign to the American people. Here's what he said a bit earlier today. Listen.
They see an open border. They see crime in the streets. They know what it costs to put gas in their car. They know what it costs to put food on the table. They see a war in Israel, our strongest ally, Israel, and what's happening there, and the help that Israel needs. And they see a government that's been weaponized against we, the people. The very government that's supposed to serve us has been turned on the taxpayers who pay for it. I think the American people are thirsty for change. I think they are hungry for leadership. And frankly, they know that the White House can't provide it. They know the Senate won't lead. And they are looking for House Republicans to step up and lead and make change on these important issues.
I think he's right about most of what he said there. The American government has been weaponized against the American people, the people funding it, you and me. And now they want to spend even more of your money. Of course they do. With the Biden administration looking for $100 billion and a big package that'll go primarily to Ukraine, then Israel, and maybe the southern border. So the House can't get its act together. What does it mean for the government and for the budget? Well, big question here to talk about it. Former Comptroller General of the United States himself, David Walker. David, welcome back.
Good to be back with you. It's a lot of crazy times right now.
It's a little nutty. All right, so you've got 25 Republicans now that vote not to go with Jim Jordan. What do you make of it? Knee-jerk reaction.
Well, first, I think that Congressman Jordan is right with regard to the issues that the American people are concerned about. And I think a vast majority of Republicans, overwhelming majority, and a number of Democrats would agree that we need to address those issues. The problem is when you're talking about the speaker's race, it's as much about the individual as it is issues. And on every vote, Congressman Jordan has lost votes. And so we'll see how long he hangs in there. The ultimate irony is that Congressman McCarthy, former Speaker McCarthy, has gotten the most votes of anybody so far. And this is just another example of Matt Gaetz and his colleagues. You got to be careful what you wish for. They wanted change, but now we have anarchy. And that's not in the interest of the country. I think if they get their act together and come to a consensus on a candidate in the near future, they can recover. But if they don't, they're likely to suffer a political price next November.
Well, we're a long way from next November, David, and we talked about that in the break. We'll see how that plays out. A million political crises between here and there. Probably ones coming from places like Ukraine, Israel, and elsewhere. And I have a question about the address we saw, 14 minutes, give or take, from Joe Biden last night. First of all, he was relatively coherent during the 14 minutes, which is an accomplishment, but he doesn't mention Iran. He talks about another $100 billion, and then he tries to tie together Ukraine, Israel, the southern border. This is what infuriates a lot of Americans. Listen, the war in Ukraine is not the same as the war in Israel, and it has nothing at all to do with the southern border. These are three separate issues that should be considered separately by the House, by the Senate, by the government in general. And yet here we are just pushing it all into one big glob and say, hey, figure it out. I think that's wrong. What do you say?
I do. I mean, it's like what happens with the omnibus bill, where they don't end up passing individual appropriations bills. They wait, they throw it all together, and they put a bunch of junk in there. Now, don't get me wrong. First, anybody who knows anything about national security and the situation in the Middle East knows that Iran is behind all of this. The failure to be able to note that and expressly state that is an absence of leadership. All too frequently, Washington thinks the American people are stupid. We're not. We're actually smarter than a lot of the people who are representing us. Secondly, we need to help Ukraine, but we shouldn't write a blank check. We need to have a clear objective as to how this thing is going to end, and we ought to be matching what the Europeans give, not giving whatever they want. We've already given way more than others.
Well, here's my question, David, and it's the question that America has in general. Why is America footing the bill for Ukraine? Why is America the one picking up the lion's share of the tab? It's like we have a bunch of friends we take out for dinner on Friday night, and they say, "Hey, Gruber, you just take it all." Yeah, that's nonsense. Look, it's nonsense, right?
Well, we're the leader of the free world. We need to do our share. We need to do our share, but we're doing more than our fair share. And what we need to do is we need to change the incentives. We need to tell the Ukrainians, look, we've already given more than Europe combined. We will end up matching what Europe gives from this point forward, but you need to put more pressure on Europe. Secondly, Israel is totally different than Ukraine. Israel is our strongest ally in that part. We need to support them. The southern border is totally different, than both of those situations. We're willing to help defend Ukraine's border, but not willing to protect our own border.
Which makes no sense.
Right.
Makes no sense, David. The border should be our number one priority here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I said our border should be number one. That's what I'm saying.
Our own border is priority one.
100%.
Protecting our own border is priority one. And $100 billion is outrageous.
No, absolutely true on every point. David Walker, you make good sense, which is why you don't work in government currently. Common sense has no place in Washington these days, sir. Thank you for being here, as always.
Always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you soon.
There you go. Donald Trump speaking at an event in Derry, New Hampshire come Monday. And, of course, Real America's Voice will bring you all the action live and in person. That's this Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss it right here on Real America's Voice. All right, coming up after the break. The USS Carney engaged 3 cruise missiles and approximately 8 drones launched by Houthi rebel terrorists out of Yemen. That story's coming up on America's Voice Live.